This is nothing crazy interesting. Got a 2005 Honda Accord, I want to say, V6. It is a V6. Year ain't too certain. I'm just doing some brakes. And but this definitely is like a '05, I want to say. This is the car that had the no crank, no start, and sat for a year. This is that car. So it's running perfectly fine. I actually got it inspected. It simply just vibrates when I stop. I'm not satisfied with it, so I'm going to put front brakes and rotors on this. But in the meantime of doing that, this is just a generic brake video, but the difference is I just want to give you my thoughts on the import direct pads and the brake best select rotors here. Now, if y'all know, I frequently patronize O'Reilly's Auto Parts. Nothing against them, but this is just pretty much an unbiased opinion of what I have to deal with because I do this on a regular basis. And there's really no videos pretty much saying anything about the quality of the part. I utilize Import Direct and Duralast Elite. I try to buy the highest quality I can, and from these part stores, I try. I am a big supporter of the places I do deal with, which is O'Reilly's and primarily, and AutoZone's pretty much my side piece store, to be honest. So, in my experience of dealing with these Import Direct pads, they look great. When they first came out, I started throwing them all on import. I mean, the name implies what they're for. They don't have these for domestic vehicles. O'Reilly's do offer their Brake Best Select Pro, which have resurfacing or break-in technology for their domestic vehicles. Now, I think I need to be a little cautious about how I specify break-in versus resurfacing, because these pads with the coating respond quicker. So this is definitely, it states that it's a break-in material, but as far as resurfacing, there's going to be a big difference from the Duralast Elite pad that I've dealt with. And being that I work on hundreds of cars a year, I don't want anything to come back because of brake noise. So I'm just going to give you more of an in-depth look of the coating. We'll probably strip the coating off, just a little corner, see what's underneath it, or just strip like a quarter of it off, see what it looks like. This car is not, trust me, this is nothing, anything special. From my experience, the brakes are going to do what they're going to do regardless if they have this coating on here. I have had some comebacks with the Import Direct pads, all right, despite it having their break-in coating. What happen is you'll experience some sort of glazing on the rotor, and sometimes that could be because the new rotors weren't cleaned properly. But I do use brake cleaner. I got some brake cleaner here. I want to use that to clean the rotors off really well. But I'd imagine the little bit that I probably don't get off, that the break-in material will help. All right, so I say that to say, in comparison to the Duralast Elite pads, they have more of a ferrous metal, like I'm gonna call it more like a, kind of call it ferrous metal. It's more like a steel, it's actually going to wear in the rotor during the initial stop for about a mile or two. And what's happening with that is really taking off a face of that rotor. Unlike these, I've experienced vibration because this doesn't respond in the same fashion as the Duralast Elite pad. I haven't had Duralast Elite pad come back simply because from a personal preference, it breaks in a lot better. It actually produces a lot less brake dust. But in comparison to what O'Reilly's do offer, this is a superior quality in comparison to, and I'm going to say this, the Wagner brand. And their brake best select. Reason being, the I've been using brake best select pads for years, and I've had a lot more comebacks with those than I would with the import direct, and I had less comebacks with the Duralast Elite. And again, the resurfacing technology makes a big difference in or their break-in technology. So simply put, I'm gonna pull this off, pull the wheel off, pull the rotors, do the brakes on this. I'm going to install the pads and rotor, clean everything up really good, and I'm going to show you what it looks like when you stop initially, and if it actually takes off a layer. I mean, it should, you'd imagine, but again, I don't hear a grinding that reassures that that's what's taking place with the Duralast Elite that I'm not getting with the import direct. So the Duralast Elite will grind during initial stop. The import direct doesn't. It just has more of that this coating. This is whatever the hell this is. So let me scrape some of it off. Let me show you what it looks like. So just to let you know, these are ceramic material pads. These aren't semi-metallic or anything. So there's nothing underneath this pad here besides the coating. I mean, it's still a ceramic pad. It just have their special coating on here that's going to help with breaking in. And maybe what it probably reacts with the oils and removes some of the contaminants that may create a frictionless surface. So that's what I assume. And again, the Duralast Elite, they have more of a I guess like a steel, whatever kind of material that's in there on the face of it. I mean, it's definitely a harder metal initially during that first few stops. That's going to deface the face of that rotor. So it's definitely going to take a layer of it off. I'm not saying it won't work, but I think that they're definitely going to be two different technologies. Obviously, the Duralast Elite face of their friction material, they don't have a coating. The metal that takes off the initial surface, that scrapes off a layer, is like integrated in the pad, like it's like, kind of like stamped on, and like this is painted. So there's nothing under here. I mean, just a regular pad. So their technology is just going to be surface level. It's painted, like it's just coated on there, like the information specifies. I do like the fact the shims are a lot better. I mean, I will say, let me just pull this off. It is glued on there. So this definitely has better adhesion than their Brake Best Select pads. I'm not sure how the Pro version work. I have not used those on their domestic vehicles. And again, because I've been going to AutoZone and getting a lot more of their Duralast Elite, that's more universal from the domestic and import, from what I understand. So this pad, like I said, it serves its purpose. I'm just not a big fan of the friction material or the coating, and to add, I did notice when our customers did come back, it does have more brake dust. These do have the typical lifespan of a ceramic pad. All right. And some of my customers that do a lot of driving, I mean, I would definitely have to change these within about a year and a half or so, and not taking into consideration like commercial delivery drivers. The Duralast Elite brand claims that it has like I want to say a 10 times longer lifespan. I have not had to do any of those pads yet, and I put quite a few dozen on vehicles. Let me just take this because we're going to use the ones I didn't cut up and show you what that looks like during the first stop. The hardware, I do like. I'm not disappointed about that. It is coated. So the cool thing about the coating is it's just going to be less susceptible to rusting and it bridging from the brake caliber mounting bracket to the brake pad backing. So, you don't have to worry about them rusting and actually mending together and causing the brakes to get seized up and locked. So you have good wear. So, I mean, I like that. That's one thing I do like about that. I did mention the brake dust. That is a thing for these pads. So I did mention that. I did have these come back for brake noise. The lifespan isn't that of the Duralast Elite, and I just got to say that they're more superior. Now, let me say also, if you're going to use these on previous used rotor, like if you're just going to do a pad slap and you want to ensure that you don't have any comebacks, the customer don't have any vibration, these aren't going to give you as much reassurance as the Duralast Elite. Okay, again, because they don't break off that first layer of that rotor, so it's not going to cut into it, assume that you potentially have a glazing surface, because a lot of times what happens when you have brake noise, you have a smooth surface of the brake pad friction material, and you have a smooth surface on the rotor. So that's why sometimes if you change the pads only, even though you got a smooth rotor or a shiny glazed rotor, it'll stop, but it'll eventually come back because you're not roughing up that surface of the rotor. So the Duralast Elite pads are going to be a lot better in that aspect, unlike the Import Direct. So I've done the pad slap on some vehicles with reasonably looking rotors, no vibration, and I've had some comebacks for brake noise with these, unfortunately. Not with the Duralast Elite, because they do a lot better job of cutting that initial surface up. All right, I'm gonna get the rotors and stuff installed. I don't think nobody cares about installing them, because again, this is just my contribution in comparison to the Import Direct and the Duralast Elite pads. So, but what is my video without me working on anything? So this is blazing. Like, you'll see it look shiny. These are old rotors with new pads. These pads were like 40s. Look like they're kind of clean. They look like pads. I mean, like, there's some good breaks this way. I don't know probably hands I've had. But they're getting age. I mean, their quality is low because they're just back like just play scale on these pads. So you can quality pads, some meridian, better quality ones. But the shiny surface, this is blazing. Oh, loose. Loose. I barely need it. Oh, you got me playing, man. I have people in here. Oh, is he going? No, he's ready to take up. I agree. Ah, that's good. Thank you. I need that right. I'll go for it right here. There's people ready to on it. All right. So, don't have to light your place, break caliber, and I'm right. I'm not going to get those. Except for, but, hard life, 4 ones last. Damn you. Break caliber. So what I'm going to do, just start the car up simply, just let the wheels rotate, the one wheel rotate, and apply the brake. See how it's kind of like a friction test in a way, and see what happens in, I guess, more of a, with a close-up view, how this pad responds to the rotor. smoking a little bit. Maybe I didn't put enough load on it to get the break-in material to wear. So I'm gonna try it again. It looked like it was coming in contact with the bottom portion more than having a good contact or even distribution overall. But it could be just how the caliber has warped or how it's contouring to the pad or seated. Probably putting more emphasis down in certain areas than others. So the caliber could be just because of that of age. So let me start up again and let's see what happens. A lot of what you see, the smoke, is coming from the oils that I wasn't able to get off. That's between the fins there. I don't know if I held a little too much right there, but it is getting a little heat treated. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna let this cool down, and then we'll take a look at the pad and see what it looks like. I'm not going to worry about it potentially warping this. I mean, it's brand new stuff. If something happens, it's my fault, and I'll pay to get this fixed. But just for the sake of curiosity, I just want to see what will happen. Let me let this cool down, then we'll slip this brake pad off and inspect that. Let's see what happened. Gosh. So here's the pad. It's still pretty hot, and honestly, I mean, it looks just like any other ceramic pad. Nothing special. You can see where it was putting more emphasis down at the bottom. I mean, this is totally discretionary of what may occur. And again, I just prefer the Duralast Elite because of its impact on how it resurfaces or take a layer off that rotor. I mean, it hasn't achieved that, but I'd imagine like right now, if I touch the rotor, I mean, it's dry. It has I'm not gonna say a tacky feel to it, but it's definitely drier than the grease have worn off. I'm not sure if that coating achieved that, but that will, again, that's my assumption. Maybe the coating is capable. Maybe the coating objective is just to remove any additional oils. And again, this doesn't cut into the rotor. You didn't hear any type of grinding or anything. And typically what happened if I was to take this on like a test drive, I would experience vibration initially before it would subsided after this coating or this break-in coating have worn off. So I'm not, again, this is just a basic ceramic pad to me. They just have their break-in technology. It would be nice if there was something a lot more superior, and if it was actually compatible with the Duralast Elite, with their break-in technology, or I want to call it resurfacing technology, because this is more break-in because of it gives it its ability to probably prevent brake squeals in the future. But I mean, in regards, if I was to use this with a old rotor, this wouldn't have resurface that and potentially allow the car not to come back for any type of brake squeals, because again, it did not resurface it. So for just general use, this will work. And in regards to reusing any type of rotor, then I would definitely go the other part. So I'm gonna get these other pads slapped on and the rotors slapped on the other side, and it's very discretionary. I'm still going to support the company. I'm still going to go there. It's just what I have to deal with on a regular basis, because there's just really no information out there in regards to the import direct in comparison to some of these other brake pads in the real life situation that I've come across. So, but it still works for normal purposes. And if I happen to be at the parts store and I need to put some brakes on, I'm definitely still going to go with the import direct, see what happens. But if anything happened, I'll definitely update. Hit that link, subscribe to the channel, stay informed, how the original's going to work. See you on the next one.